Today on Hitch20, why Alfred Hitchcock still has such an impact on today's filmmakers.
Kind of as the Beatles were to rock and roll, Hitchcock was to American film.
And later, we examine the episode Wet Saturday and its unpredictable characters.
You know I'm not afraid of rats.
Well, you are now.
Much has been said about the 52 feature films that Hitchcock directed, but nobody talks about the 20 television episodes he also directed.
Good evening. I'm Alfred Hitchcock.
The Hitch20.
Funding for Hitch20 is provided by GlideCam, world-class camera stabilizers, and by the all-new Paralinx Triton, ultralight uncompressed real-time wireless monitoring. We also enjoy the inspiration of subscribers like you. Thank you.
What is it about Alfred Hitchcock that makes his work so appealing, in fact, worshipped by today's filmmakers? Amateurs can always point to the famous vertigo zoom effect and that infamous shower scene, but the tapestry of Hitchcock's techniques goes much further than a few tricks of camera and editing.
I think he's kind of inspired everybody on kind of an unconscious level, like he inspires the people that have inspired us. I think the work that he did in his films and in his television show was just so groundbreaking that, it inspired the directors of the 60s and 70s and 80s and then the 90s and 2000s. So I think it was kind of a ripple effect of inspiration, so kind of as the Beatles were to rock and roll, Hitchcock was to American film.
As we've seen in this series, it's the way he followed looks and glances, using the camera to point out story, to become involved with the character's world and the objects that they interact with.
He could, take the most boring scene and kind of shift it just slightly and turn it into something completely different.
He is able of being simple, being elegant but simple, and not always, giving us these montage sequences, which are great, but they definitely draw attention to themselves in the way that they're very quickly cut and edited. What he was always good at was being able to build and build and build the audience up.
It's the way he involved his audience in secret information and then builds tension about whether that secret is going to be uncovered.
So Hitchcock, in his movies and on his TV show, he's just notorious for keeping you guessing and showing you just enough, to make you want more. It's never, this graphic scene of, this violent murder. It's always kind of hinting at it, it's never in your face. It's always, just behind the curtain, making you want to see more.
It's his sense of humor that makes his work more like a funhouse gag than a heavy, gruesome thriller.
You really get a sense that he's kind of a fun guy, he's like, he plays up the dark, mysterious aspect, but he also seems like he's, kind of a jokester, kind of a prankster. I think we all draw a lot from Hitchcock, and as a screenwriter, I think he's really inspiring, because sometimes you have really incredibly dark scenes that you need to balance with a little bit of humor, and he was the expert at doing that.
Wet Saturday is an important study among Hitchcock's 20 episodes because it calls attention to something that is rarely discussed: his use of unpredictable characters.
This episode hits the ground running. When the episode begins, the murder has already taken place. The daughter has killed her schoolmaster. His body's in the barn 2 doors down, and they're trying to figure out, how do we get away with this murder?
It is classic Hitchcock, and basically in the way that the characters speak and talk, and there's this sort of tongue-in-cheek playfulness about very serious situations like murder, where characters love to beat around the bush and sort of pun off really, really sort of lurid, dark subject matter.
I love it when the daughter's freaking out and they're trying to, the whole family's acting like it's no big deal, like she just dented somebody's car or something, but really they're talking about her killing a human being, and the whole family's trying to, help conceal this murder.
There's a great bit of off-screen gore in this episode where they're describing what happened when the daughter hit the schoolmaster in the head with the croquet mallet. They're talking about how many blows that she hit landed on his head.
Now, a lot of filmmakers may be enticed to shoot a flashback sequence and portray the murder visually. But that's not important. See, the murder isn't the important part of the story. The murder is merely the setting. The important part is the relationship between the father and the daughter.
So we actually start in the middle of the story. You can do that. That's a great way to start your story and a great way to do your story.
Funding for Hitch20 is made possible by GlideCam Industries. Filmmakers around the world know that GlideCam stabilizers give you the smoothest flowing video with easy operation. Both professional filmmakers and amateur movie makers alike can enjoy fluidity and grace in their cameras. It's no wonder GlideCam is the name and future of camera stabilizers.
Wet Saturday is essentially a comedy of the absurd. This use of comedy is a sharp counterpoint that increases the uneasiness of the suspense.
The daughter, who to me represents sort of like the id, in the sense that she can't control her emotions. She has no filter. She's hysterical. She is almost animal in the way her body movements are very kind of rigid, and her hair is kind of frizzled, and she seems like she just is in absolute disarray.
It's like here you have this, complete psychopath who needs to go to jail, and the whole family's just figuring out how to act like nothing happened and kind of sweep it under the rug.
Mr. Princey, the father, is dressed in dark colors. He's got a dark suit on. That's because he's different than everyone else. Everyone else in this play are simpletons. Everyone. He is a deeper thinker. He's a calculating person, and that even exemplifies itself in his glasses. Notice those glasses, those big, thick lenses that seem to distort his eyes. It's like a visual metaphor of an intellectual who is so far removed from morality that he can concoct this amazing scheme.
Our family has held a position of respect in this community for generations. I do not intend to have that position destroyed by the stupidity of one foolish female.
George, the brother, is a man-child. He is a simpleton to the extreme.
He kind of represents the ego in the sense that he's kind of mediating both the id and the superego. The superego being Cedric Hardwicke's character, the father, the patriarch of the family, who is very much trying to be genteel, and he's trying to live within social codes and be respectable, but yet at the same time he has very sinister intentions. Whereas George is the one who seems sort of conflicted between all of this, just kind of in his almost Farley Granger-like callous facial movements and the way he seems always reluctant about things.
Mrs. Princey is also an enigma. She stays so quiet that we wonder, perhaps subconsciously, if she will step in and make a surprise move of her own. And then there's the family friend Captain Smollett, played by Hitchcock favorite John Williams. As he's held at gunpoint by this family of misfits, we, as the audience, share his sense of fear that anything can happen.
And now suddenly, he's in the middle of this discussion of how we're going to get rid of this body. And there's suspense built around the daughter, who's a complete loose cannon. She could say the wrong thing in front of this guy, and they could be in big trouble.
By setting up this array of personalities, none of which seem to care about the victim in this story, we're glued to the screen, almost in disbelief. And to top it all off, Millie looks into the camera and starts talking to us. Now we're in on the secret, and that puts us at risk as well. Wet Saturday demonstrates how unpredictable characters make up an important part of the tapestry of Hitchcock's style. As today's screenwriters are crafting and shaping their characters, perhaps there's room for more unpredictability.
Join us at Borgus.com for more on Hitchcock and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Read our Hitchcock ebook and watch our Hitchcock homage film, Offing David.